There are some things so seemingly perfectly set up by the universe as to rid the word irony of any use. And I think, well, to me, for me in my life, that is what we have here today. Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for another poetry discussion, which will appear in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one, the poetry discussion playlist, of course. But number two, the Emily Dickinson playlist, a playlist of videos dedicated to the greatest poet of all time, regardless of what it is that Emily Dickinson herself might think. The poem in question is I Think I Was Enchanted, and it reads as such. I think I was enchanted when first a somber girl I read that foreign lady, the dark, felt beautiful, and whether it was noon at night or only heaven at noon, for very lunacy of light I had not power to tell. The bees became as butterflies, the butterflies as swans, approached and spurned the narrow grass, and just the meanest tunes that nature murmured to herself to keep herself in cheer. I took for giants practicing Titanic opera. The days to mighty meters stepped, the homeliest adorned, as if unto a jubilee 'twere suddenly confirmed. I could not have defined the change, conversion of the mind, like sanctifying in the soul. It is witnessed, not explained. 'Twas a divine insanity, the danger to be sane. Should I again experience 'tis antidote to turn to tombs of solid witchcraft, magicians be asleep, but magic hath an element like deity to keep. Now, the supposed subject of this poem is Elizabeth Barrett Browning, the poet Elizabeth Barrett Browning, as read by Emily Dickinson. But the poem itself is about Emily Dickinson finding these words, finding this writing, finding this author, and usurping, perhaps, all of the wonderment that those pages had held. In my estimation, this is exactly what Emily Dickinson herself has done, not just for me, but entire generations of writers, entire generations of literary critics, entire generations of people simply willing and wanting to take something seriously. It it's strange that someone who has such a large shadow in the world of literature as Emily Dickinson, it's almost strange to imagine that she herself owed her literary prowess to someone else. And as always is the case, right? There's theories of creativity that say nothing is original, everything is synthesis. And oftentimes, when you see interesting quirks, interesting moves in art, the movements that we have in music, in film, in writing, etc., oftentimes, if you really drill down, those movements can be seen as fusions of other things. I think that, so for example, with painting, I don't know that something like pointillism could have occurred at any other time because the eye was trained so heavily to these perfect and precise representations in paintings. So we already knew what paint on canvas looked like, and it took something completely aback. It took viewers completely aback that they were able to identify things in a painting with so sparse detailing. That's a little bit different than what I'm saying with the all art being fusion, all different movements being fusion, but it still builds on something, even if that something is a presumption made by the brain. I think that oftentimes they are the arts with the lowest stakes that start movements. Literature, I think, starts a lot of artistic movements because there is very low investment in the words on the page versus painting. That's a lot of hours, that's a lot of paint, that's a lot of canvas to be making a different movement, a different type of uh, aesthetic on the page. And movies are $100 million enterprises, so it's very difficult. That's why you see all of these movies, even the highly stylized movies, are ripping things off from comic books. Comic books have a much lower bar for entry as far as risk taking is concerned. But I say all of that because there was someone influencing Emily Dickinson. I don't know the verity behind the fact that was it Emily Barrett Browning or not. I don't know. I don't care to know. I don't know that I ever want to know. For me, simply the idea that Emily Dickinson had this someone that was held on high, the fact that Emily Dickinson had this someone to whom she would retreat from time to time, the fact that Emily Dickinson would get lost herself in someone else's words rather than her own. That's enough for me. I don't have to know who. Maybe it's best if I don't know who. You know, Emily Dickinson is someone that has been so instrumental in my life, someone to whom I have often retreated, someone to whom I have often thrown up my hands and said, you know, what would Emily Dickinson think? What would Emily Dickinson do? WWEDD. And the words here in this poem are so light and playful. It's almost as if what has happened here to that somber girl reading that the dark felt beautiful had found herself renewed, had found herself a new childhood, if you will, a new brand of innocence, a new type of innocence, a new beginning for that somber girl. And it's difficult, isn't it, to go ahead and relent the world that we have built up around ourselves. And I think, you know, if it's hard for me to do that, to break down that wall that says, you must be austere, where is the stoic inside you? Don't let anyone see the emotions. If if it's difficult for a dullard like me, basically a bonobo compared to Emily Dickinson, how hard would that have been for someone with all those tools? How hard would that have been for someone with all of that depth? But to know that even someone like that, even the great literary stalwart Emily Dickinson, had pages where she would retreat, had pages where she would rebuild. Does that suggest that in our evolution with literature, as we have progressed with the abilities to read and write, that perhaps that tool that she used, that tool that I use, that tool I'm sure that you use, you have a comfort book, you have a comfort poet, you have a favorite poem, you have a favorite short story, a novel that you've read over and over again. Is that simply something that has evolved with us as the art form itself has evolved? That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. There's poetry every Monday, and I hope to have you back for the next one.